Fritz.
Well, first of all, I guess during one council campaign, there was 15 of us, and there was a forum, and they would ask one question and would go down the table. And a similar question was, do you support economic development? And by the time we got to the seventh person, people were saying ditto. So first, to shorten my answer, I will first say, yeah, I agree with pretty much what everyone else has said. I think, as I stated before, the city needs to be in the forefront of directing growth, and mainly by providing community development. And what I mean by community development is providing the water and sewer and safety services and making sure there's good health care, and a strong workforce. I think that the mayor needs to be there to work with SIU, or is able to work with SIU, the city's director of economic development, the chamber, and our existing businesses, which are very important to our current economy and also to our growth for the future. Thank you.
The next area I want to ask about, and I'll start with you, Mr. Haynes, is housing. It's a huge issue in this community. How would you expand single-family, owner-occupied residential housing for new and existing homes in this community? Are there incentives that you would offer? If so, what might they be?
I think some of the incentives that have already been on the table for those that are out there, we have done at the city level. Unfortunately, due to the budget constraints, we did have to pare back on the grant program that we had devised to the city of Carbondale itself. However, we have been very aggressive to our housing personnel to the city to get each and every available federal and state level grant that's out there. I've always been a very adamant out there that we need to develop our single family homes, due to the fact that if you get people in neighborhoods, you get them to have 9 times out of 10 our biggest investment is going to be our home and what we have in that responsibility. So I think if you get people involved in that, if you get people who live in their communities where they work at or potentially will work at, that you'll always have good, safe, prosperous communities, including the neighborhoods that will look good, that will stay clean, that will stay developed, and will be open relationships amongst each and everyone else. So if you look at my record on being on the council, you see that I've always had out that to the detriment of some of my other fellow council members, I've always talked about the positive role of housing and how it develops Carbondale itself.
Mr. Roney.
When I was a hospital administrator, we would have people coming to the community, whether it be managers or physicians, and you would talk to them about where they were going to live. And they had 3 questions. They're interested in crime, they were interested in the school system, and they were interested in taxes. And the 2 issues that in particular we have to do more about in this community is addressing the performance of our primary school system, K through 8. They have to do a better job. They need to be competitive with you or other giant city. And we have to do something about the tax situation. And the tax situation I'm talking about is the tax bill you receive, not the tax for the city of Carbondale, but that total tax bill. The taxing bodies, if this community is really going to change and get the type of home ownership and change that mix from the 70-30 of apartment to homeowner, private homeowners, we have to address that total tax bill. That means our schools, John A. Logan, the library, the park board, and the city. That is going to take a very concerted effort on the part of a lot of folks. In the long term, I think that can make a difference as far as how we change things in this community. I have a very serious concern about some of the housing and what's going to happen in this community with regard to some of the rental property that currently exists. I'm concerned about Section 8 housing, how that is growing in this community. I think there needs to be limits somehow placed on the amount of Section 8 housing. And the big question is, what's going to happen with deteriorating rental property in this community as we have more and more new rental property constructed? And I think that's going to be a huge challenge for developers, and it's going to be a huge challenge for the city to preserve the tax base. Thank you.
Mr. Fritz.
Excuse me. Well, first of all, we need to make our current residents happy. I mean, essentially, that's who our customers are, the customers of the city. If we're wanting to attract new customers, new residents, we've got to take care of our existing residents first. Because obviously, in my opinion, actually our population has actually gone down a little bit. Our census numbers show that our numbers are up, but over the last 10 years, we've actually expanded our city limits. So essentially, we've just been taking in residents of Southern Illinois or the Carbondale area that have already been here. So we need to first, make our current residents happy. Secondly, we need to fairly and properly enforce our codes and ordinances. In the past, it's been sort of haphazard. Some people seem to be, more favorable, consideration than others. Thirdly, I'd like to bring back, I guess, our rental conversion program. It was very successful, and Mr. Haynes mentioned that. We had it for a couple years where we only had it for $25,000. We give $5,000 grants to people that were wanting to convert a rental property into an owner-occupied home, and it can be used for closing costs or renovations or whatever they deem fit, and then the property can remain owner-occupied for a certain amount of time. Finally, I would like us to encourage and educate students and their parents the benefits of home ownership. And I think that it would benefit Carbondale as well, because if a student and his parents or her parents were to purchase a home, they're going to have a little more, I guess, buy-in to the city, where as opposed rather than sticking around for a semester or a year, they're going to think, well, I have an investment here, and I'll stick around for another year. And usually, if we can keep them for 2 years, we can keep them for their third year, fourth year, and hopefully graduate school, and hopefully we can keep them on long after that. Thank you.
Mr. Gold.
I can simply say amen to everything that has been said. It's not brand new. We've had it over the years, and you have to ask the question, what is new about what it is we're just saying? And the issue is, these are issues that have been here for years and years and years and still go unresolved. And so the question that needs to be addressed is not what's wrong, but the question is, why aren't we doing something about it? And I would say to you that if I were mayor, the first thing I would do would be to convene developers, the real estate people, and say to them, here are the issues, what do you propose to do to solve this? And if you don't, we'll find other ways to do it. At the university, we saw that. When we had faculty members coming in, where did they go? They left town. They never came to Carbondale. They went other places. When our students are coming in, they are looking to broken down places where they are renting. And I can tell you that we have lost students because parents say, this is a great school. I'd like my child to go here, but not to live there. And they don't come back. The issue before us is not, can we identify the list of problems? The issue before us, can we identify what we're going to do about it? And I want to tell you that as mayor, I would take that as a very high priority to do something about it. And I would say to you that at a certain period, maybe in 4 years, you would hold me accountable at a meeting and say, you said, what are we going to do about it? It is now 4 years later, what have we done about it? And I would like to pledge to you that I would have an answer for you then. The issue is action, not inaction. It's something we must do something about right now.
Mr. Maroney, this next question starts with you, and it plays off something you just were talking about. Building requirements. Is this city too strict in building, remodeling, and development requirements that make us uncompetitive with other communities for new housing? And if so, how do we reduce those to guarantee quality housing for people? What's the balance there? How do you approach that issue? Deal too a little bit, if you will, with the inspections issue, what Dr. Goldman just referred to. Some people, you've got a tension here between landlords who are trying to make a profit off housing, and yet some students who don't feel the quality of housing is sufficient.
Well, first of all, the landlords, I think we all need to realize that the landlords are a large industry in this community. So are the students. They're a large industry in this community. And we need to find ways to work with these individuals, not attack them. And we need to find ways, when they talk of the housing issue in this community for students, I drive around, I can't understand. I've never seen so much new construction for students in this community since I lived here. And the issue is what we're going to do with the old construction. Now, I think there needs to be a meeting of the minds on the part of property owners, developers, and the city as to what is a proper code, and then the people with the city who do the interpretation of those codes need to have proper direction so that the enforcement is appropriate, so that this community is competitive for developers. I'm not in any way suggesting that we weaken our codes and the enforcement to the point where it is a negative impact on the community. That is, that might be good for a year, but it's surely not good for the long term. But we need to have something different. There's been so much, there's smoke, there's fire. This issue has been in the forefront so long, with so many developers and other people talking about it, and nothing's been done. Now, with Dr. Goldman, you've got a different situation, but you'll rarely hear me talking about convening large groups where we're going to sit down and work through problems. I'm more accustomed to small groups. But this is one of those instances. By bringing together a group of people in this community, I think we can come up with a compromise that is more realistic and workable for everyone that will benefit the students and the city.
Mr. Fritz.
Trying to figure out where to start there. I mean, when you mentioned the word fire, that just kind of brought to mind. One of the hats I wear, I'm on the local Red Cross board, and I'm a disaster service volunteer, and I guess probably reminded people many times that we cover the 14 counties here in southern Illinois, and we'll get our report for single-family fires, and it's interesting how in Williamson County and Franklin County, which have very lax codes, they have more single-family fires than than the rest of the 14, and Jackson County usually has the fewest amount, mainly because here in Carbondale, we have very good building codes. A lot of people think they're strict building codes, but I think they're safe. They're safe for the people that live here. They're safe for our fire personnel, just for all around. Unfortunately, we don't have any volunteers in Franklin County, so usually one of us has to go up there to assist a family that's just had their home burned out. So I think our building requirements are fair as long as they're being enforced fairly and properly. As was mentioned, we are in the process of revamping our codes, bringing them up to date, because there's always cases where you have maybe some old code that says you can only have your horse parked for a certain amount of time. And we need to bring those up to date, and also with as far as energy issues as well. We did recently, I guess it's been in effect for almost 2 years, our rental inspection program. There's been a few bugs in that have been worked out, eventually and slowly, probably not as fast as most people want it to be done. But there's been meetings from city staff and landlords to help work those out. So I think there has been some good cooperation with the city staff in addressing the needs of the landlords. And again, you'll probably, maybe not as fast as some people would like, and it probably doesn't, a few people aren't always happy, but we're trying to make things safe for our customers, for the residents of Carbondale, and also to bring more students into Carbondale. And as was mentioned before, yeah, parents come into Carbondale, they like the university, but then they're looking around for a place to stay. If they can find something better over in Cape Girardeau or Evansville or at Eastern, that's where they're going to go. And we want to make sure that we keep them here to begin with.